Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the vlog. I'm sure you've already seen the thumbnail, read the title, so you know this is Booktube Knockout Round 7. This is the second to last of all of the quarter-final rounds, and today I will be reading like Jess Owens. If this is your first Booktube Knockout video, I do recommend you go back and read them in order. This is a series that I have been working on all year. Basically, it's just my little twist on reading like other booktubers. I took 8 booktubers that I really love their content and I compared my taste to their taste and arranged them in order from who has the most similar taste to me to who has the least similar taste to what I normally read. And then basically I've been putting them head to head in a competition that they know nothing about to see who is going to come out on top, who out of all of these content creators has the most similar taste to my own. And today we are reading like Jess Owens. Jess makes absolutely fantastic content. She's so funny and so relatable. She's definitely one of my favorite content creators, and like I have to read like another Jess. Like I have to, right? I have picked up 3 books that align with Jess's taste. I genuinely think that all of these books could be 5-star reads. Now, here's the thing. In this series, I try to pick books that the content creator, it's one of their favorites or is like integral to their brand of like who they are. But I also try to make sure that the books already align with my taste, because I'm not trying to like hate read anybody's favorites in this series. Like, I want to have a good time. I want you to have a good time. I want to read books that I enjoy. I want to be happy. So I do try to pick books that I think that I will enjoy. It's been a little bit hit or miss, but genuinely Jess's taste is so similar to my own that this could be the first video where all 3 books, like, I genuinely think that they could get full 5 stars across the board. No one has done that so far. This could be the first. I picked 3 books, and it's actually funny. They're all different age groups, and they're all different genres. So I picked first up Medical Apartheid. This is a nonfiction about the experimentation on Black Americans throughout like US history. Honestly, this book is going to be like very, very upsetting to read, but I do think it is important to include a nonfiction simply because Jess used to have a book club where like they only read nonfiction, and that was very, very much like a part of her channel for a while. And so I think it's important that I read a nonfiction, and this is also one that like I picked up because Jess recommended it so very highly. So it's a book I bought because of her, and I just feel like it fits because of her book club. I will also be reading Amari and the Night Brothers. First of all, this is one of Jess's all-time favorite books. She loves it, but like also it's a middle grade fantasy, and middle grade fantasies tend to just be so wholesome and whimsical, and they usually have like a really positive message. There's usually quite a bit of joy in them, and I think that I will need that joy after getting through that nonfiction. And then the third book that I'll be reading is Firekeeper's Daughter, which is a young adult thriller. And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I got it as an add-on to my book of the month. I really don't remember much about it other than that it is a young adult thriller, but it was again one of Jess's favorite books the year that it came out, so that is what I will be reading for this vlog. I think I'm gonna start with Medical Apartheid just because it is going to definitely sink my mood, and also because it is like very, very long and very dense, so I think it is going to be like mentally and also physically the hardest of the books of this vlog to get through. So I think I'm gonna start there. That's what I'll be doing this vlog, and I'll catch you later. Good morning. It is 3 days later, I still have a naked Christmas tree behind me that I haven't done anything with, and all I've managed to do is finish part 1 in Medical Apartheid. I'm this far. That's it. It's so dense. This book is one of the densest, most difficult books I have ever come across. I'm on page 185. When I say this is one of the most difficult books I've ever read, I mean like literally and mentally. Obviously, the subject matter is very disturbing and depressing and upsetting and infuriating and all of those things. Thankfully, though, Harriet Washington does like kind of take a step back in the way she approaches writing this so that it doesn't feel quite as emotionally charged as it could. And I mean, part of that is just that this is like a scholarly book. You can tell that this is written by somebody who like intended for this to be very scholarly, like very, very academic. I have read a lot of academic papers in my life, none recently, and those papers were like usually only like 20 pages. This is a lot more, but I am experienced with that, so I do kind of recognize like the pulling back of the self in the way it's written. I don't know how else to communicate that. I don't want to say impartiality because I don't think that's like the right word to use about this. You know, Harriet Washington isn't impartial. She delivers the facts and like you can't argue with them because they're literally facts, but she's definitely not impartial about it. But you can tell that she is looking at it through a more distant academic lens. And to be perfectly honest, I'm extremely thankful for that, because if this was more emotionally driven, I genuinely don't think I would be able to handle it. And I don't know very many people who would. This book is so infuriating. It is so terrible, and I truly, truly hate that a book like this even has to exist. Some of the content in here I already knew about. Some of the content in here is definitely brand new information to me, but I also appreciate that even if there's a topic in here that I already knew about, Harriet Washington is able to share more information that I did not know about the topic, and also is able to really well articulate connections that I didn't necessarily see before or was unable to grasp, but not only about like the facts of this one topic, but like how we got from point A to point B to point C, and like how all of these are connected, and basically like how all of this history of violence is all connected. And again, it's not like a surprise that like all of this is connected throughout history and we can trace it, but I do really appreciate seeing very clearly the different threads that like started way back in US history, you know, in the 1600s, and like now are reaching present day times. Like I said, I finished part 1. Part 1 really is more about history, and I think like part 2 and onward is going to focus more on like present day or like much more recent history. To be perfectly honest with you all, my brain is burnt out. Like I need a break from this. I honestly, it's so dense. Like there is so much material, and this is so very dense, and it's so very, very academic that like my brain cannot handle any more of this book at the moment. And then on top of that, the subject matter is just so depressing that like I need a break from that as well. So I mean, this is phenomenal so far, but I think I'm gonna take a break from this, And then I'm gonna start Firekeeper's Daughter. I don't know if I'm gonna read like the whole thing and then move back to this, but I at least need like a little bit of a break. I can also feel like a depressive episode happening, and I can tell it's happening because I've had a naked tree in my office and I have zero desire to decorate it, and I have zero desire to put up lights or like get out my Christmas decorations. And normally I get out my Christmas decorations like November 15th. And I have been like waiting and counting down the days to get them out. This is not a good sign. I think I might try to trick my brain into thinking that it's not depressed by forcing myself to do some Christmas decorating, and we'll see if I can trick my own brain. So I'm gonna pull out some decorations, I'm gonna read a little bit of Firekeeper's Daughter, and I will talk to you later. Hello, welcome back. It is much later. You saw I did put up some Christmas decorations, and you know, it did make me happy. So seeing them as I've been walking around the house definitely has made me happy. Is it actually helping with the depression? Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Whenever I enter a depressive episode, I get like really ambivalent. Like, I don't get like sad, I just get like withdrawn and bleh, bleh. I believe that is like the technical medical term, so you might have to like look it up if that confuses you. There are still some decorations that I need to put up. Like, obviously I need to put the lights on this tree. I usually put lights on my bookshelf, so I need to do that. And then like obviously the lights and the Christmas tree for the living room have to go up, but those require help, and I don't feel like doing it right now. I just don't. I don't. So I'm just gonna look at my little Christmas gnomes. I love gnomes. I don't care if that makes me like an 85-year-old woman. I don't care. I love gnomes. If you saw when I put up my Halloween decorations, I have a wizard gnome. His name is Gnome Dolph. And I have 2 Christmas gnomes and the Christmas gnome pillow, and I love them. Anyways, I have been tricking my brain into focusing by forcing myself to read 10 pages of Medical Apartheid and then 10 pages of Firekeeper's Daughter. I am very thankful that I am in the position that I can educate myself about this topic. This is a fantastically well-written book, and it is so well researched, and I am thankful that this exists. Very difficult to actually read, though. It is not helping with the depression. But forcing myself to switch back and forth and trick my brain into focusing between these two books has been working. I've now finished part 2 in this book. Very depressing, but also very excellent. And I'm very happy with my progress. I have also read part 1 of Firekeeper's Daughter. That puts me like a little over 1/4 of the way through this book. This is a young adult thriller, and you follow Donis, who is actually 19 in this book, which is a little older than most young adult protagonists. And I do want to emphasize, I definitely think that while this is on the older end of young adult, I do still feel like it is very much in that category and not in like the new adult category. So Donis is half native, half white, and she just graduated from high school. In the beginning of the book, she seems like very unmoored, I would say. Her family has been through a lot recently. Her uncle just OD'd, and then also her grandmother just had a stroke. So there's been like a lot of stuff going on with her family. And Donis definitely uses science as kind of a defense mechanism. Like basically when she feels like she's too overwhelmed with emotion, she will like start reciting things in her head, like the periodic table of elements, or she'll be like listing all of like the muscles in the forearm or something like that. She is extremely intelligent. It's like very, very apparent in just like the amount of knowledge she has, but like also in how perceptive she is about everything around her. I do think that like she is like a little too potentially emotionally mature for a 19-year-old. And that's not even necessarily exactly what I mean to say. It's just that like sometimes Donis will be in like a social situation and the way she reacts to it is too like perfect, if that makes sense. Like sometimes the way she reacts is too on the nose for like the exact perfect response that like somebody who was emotionally intelligent, like the way they would respond, which I mean like honestly is such a minor complaint. Like it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. This is also a debut novel, so I don't necessarily expect perfection right out of the gate of like characterization and like how a character would speak to other characters, like dialogue and things like that. But I did want to mention it because there have been like a couple instances where I feel like drawn back out of the believability of the book, and I'm like, no 19-year-old like would ever act like that. I do think also that sometimes like with Donis's reactions being like so very emotionally mature, it does kind of like hit you very on the nose with like some of like the moral and ethical statements of the book. And like obviously none of them are wrong. Like there's nothing wrong with the moral or ethical statements in the book, but I feel like considering this is a 19-year-old main character, and this obviously is on the more mature side of the young adult age range, I do think that more subtlety could have been used. Like it does sort of kind of give me the feeling that like maybe the author thinks we're stupid and like we just won't pick up on it. So far the plot is great. This is a thriller, so basically like I told you about like Donis's family, like they're going through a lot of things at the moment, like very, very emotional. They're all grieving. In terms of like how the plot is progressing, so far it has been great. I think the book is paced excellently. There is a new kid, Jamie, who is now on Donis's half-brother's hockey team, and Donis is like very close with her brother, and so she's getting to know this new kid. And then what really like kind of kicks off the whole plot is there is a murder, and it happens like directly in front of Donis, and it is related to drugs. And there has been kind of like this creeping problem of meth within the native community that Donis is a part of, and she has started to see it become like more and more of a problem over like the past like year-ish, and that is also like what her uncle OD'd on. So obviously, like with the murder happening directly in front of her, and then obviously with her uncle's OD, all of this like being connected with this drug problem, Donis kind of gets herself involved with the investigation of the drug situation within her community. And I mean, she is 19, and this is definitely like a dangerous thing potentially for her to be playing with, but it also does kind of feel like she is a good candidate to be investigating this, because she does care so much about her community. But on top of that, she also has like some training in like native medicinal herbs and stuff like that. And I think like she's planning on going like pre-med or something in college. On one hand, it's like, why are you getting involved in this? This is potentially like a very bad idea. But on the other hand, like it also does make sense. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with Firekeeper's Daughter. I definitely think that things are about to kick off more in this book. I think things are gonna get pretty tense and pretty exciting. So far, it doesn't really feel like a mystery. It definitely like feels like it's solidly in the thriller category. Like there's obviously the mystery of like who's making the meth and like who is selling it and all of that, and like how is this organization working, and like how is it becoming such a problem. But it doesn't really feel like a mystery book, if that makes sense. I think that this is definitely going to be one of those thrillers where it's more about like the tension and the plot and the pacing of it, and we're going to like find out information as we go, rather than it being about like us trying to like think and like figure out and put the mystery together as we read the book. I don't know if that even made sense. Like honestly, I don't even know if anything that I've said this entire day has made sense. I like genuinely, I feel like everything I said at the start of this update, like I've already forgotten. Not really what you want to have in a reading vlog where I'm supposed to be reading information with my eyes and retaining that information with my brain, but my brain is not working properly. So yeah, that's part 1 of Firekeeper's Daughter, and I'm also finished part 2 of Medical Apartheid. It took me all day to read that. All day. It's like 220 pages that I read, a little over that. It took me all day. I gotta go now. I will check in tomorrow. I don't know. I will check in when I have something to say about one of these books. Hello, good morning. It is the next day. Still have not put up lights in here. Still struggling, to be honest, but I did finish Medical Apartheid. I don't have really much more to add to what I've already said about this book. It's so well written, it's so well researched, very, very academic. I mean, I'm giving this 5 stars, absolutely. I am very, very happy that I was able to read this, but also at the same time, it sucked. It just honestly is a really difficult book to get through, but I do absolutely 100% recommend it. I definitely learned quite a few things in here and learned new things about topics that I already had some knowledge on, saw a bunch of connections that I didn't necessarily put together, filled in quite a few gaps in my historical knowledge. 5 stars, highly recommend, very depressed. I also have made some progress in Firekeeper's Daughter. I am this far through now, so almost 2/3 of the way. Things are moving and grooving in here. The pace has definitely picked up in the next part of this book, and there have been some more deaths. And I think that it's very interesting because the deaths, like, you really feel them. And I think because Donis is the main character POV and she is so connected to her community that when these deaths happen and like they ricochet through the community, you as the reader really, really feel that and can empathize with her. And so I think honestly, like, great job. That's like a real talent, I think, in terms of just like the writing craft of it, because there's plenty of times where I'm supposed to feel things about death and I just do not. Is it sad and probably making my mental health situation worse? Like, yeah. But is it excellent writing? Yes. So yeah, I don't think I can really say anything else about like the plot of this book, because I think I already kind of told you too much of it, but just know that I am enjoying it, if that's the right word. I think it's great. I think the pacing is absolutely top notch and the thrilling aspects are thrilling. So, you know, all checks in the positive column in Firekeeper's Daughter. I will probably check in when I finish this. Hello, welcome to my Christmassy goblin den. It's kind of cold today, so I am wearing the fuzziest sweater that I have and the coziest sweatpants that I have, and I am so sorry. I finished Firekeeper's Daughter and Amari, and I haven't done any updates. Just to be like as open as I'm willing to be, I am struggling. I didn't put up a video last week, and you know, I'm just doing what I can when I can, basically. And I always forget how much depression affects my day-to-day productivity and like ability to just like do tasks. I always forget, and I shouldn't, because it's happened enough times now that I should remember, but I don't. I'm just taking a second to be real and just let you know, like, yes, I am struggling, but I want to make it like very, very clear. I am okay. Like, I have a really, really good support system, and like, I'm gonna be fine. I've been here before. I'm not in any danger. I'm gonna push through this in another couple weeks to a month. Everything's gonna be totally back to normal. Everything's gonna be fine. Like, I'm good. I really am. And I mean, like, if you want to like send positive thoughts and energy my way, that's totally fine. But like, please do not spend time worrying about me. Like, you don't need to. Like, I promise, I really do. Like, I might be struggling, but like, I really, like, everything is definitely gonna be fine. So I just wanted to say that. I am sorry that I didn't do any updates or vlogging. I just didn't have it in me, and that's okay. Sometimes it is that way, but I did want to do my final update. I finished Firekeeper's Daughter and I'm giving it 4 stars. I think it is really, really well written. I think the pacing of this is so perfect, and really like the only complaints I have of this are like the same things that I talked about in like my very first update, and really like I don't have any other complaints about this. I think it's an excellent book. I also like really liked the twists in here. It's not like one of those twists where you necessarily feel like smacked in the face startled by it, because you kind of figure out the twist at the same time the main character does, but the twists are like extremely satisfying. And I personally could not see them coming, but the twists were very satisfying. Donis is a great main character. She's intelligent, she's perceptive, she's very resilient. You really root for her, and like her biracial identity also really plays such a major role in here, and how she relates to both her family, like her half brother and her mom and her dad, and also like how she relates to both communities that she is a part of. And it's fantastic. It is. I did also just want to mention though, like before you pick up this book, that there is a content warning in here for rape. It is technically on page, but it is so non-graphic as to like almost be like off page. And I know that that doesn't like really make sense, but like it's basically one of those things where it's like plot is moving, oh shit, this happens, plot is moving. And like that's not to say it's like swept under the rug or like doesn't have ramifications for like the plot or Donis, but more just that I think Angela Booley put that in for a specific purpose, which she talks about in the author's note, but didn't want to focus on like the actual violence in and of itself, but more just on the social commentary surrounding that, if that makes sense. 4 stars, really recommend. I think this is like an excellent book. I also read Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and I'm so sorry. I have really only mentioned this book in the intro to this video. I did not tell you when I finished Firekeeper's Daughter and picked this up. I'm sorry. But this is a middle grade fantasy novel, and it is online and I think on the book itself. Yeah, recommended for ages 8 to 12. This is so good. It is so fantastic. It is absolutely everything that you have heard this book to be. In this book, you follow Amari, and her brother Quentin has gone missing, and her brother is like in his either very late teens or early 20s. Like he's graduated and like has a job, so there's like a very significant age gap between the two of them, because I believe Amari is 12. Amari and her mother reported her brother missing, but like really there are no leads. The police can't figure out what's going on. Obviously, because he's a black man living in an underfunded area of the city, the police just really have zero priority of trying to solve his missing persons case. But Amari is so very determined to find her brother. People keep telling her that he's dead, but she is 100% convinced that he is still alive. One day she gets this discovery, and in it is a briefcase. And the briefcase includes this invitation to try out for a trainee position at like the Supernatural Bureau of Investigation, basically. And that's how Amari kind of gets like wrapped up in this fantastical world and discovers that her brother was actually working at this bureau and he went missing when he was on a case. This book is an absolute delight. It is so charming and sweet, and like I love Amari. She is such a good main character. When she gets to this like tryout, it's like a summer program, and she gets there and like her roommate is a were-dragon, and like it's so cute. I also think it's just like extremely well written. This is a book that I think your age does not matter in terms of enjoying the book. I had an absolute blast with Amari, with her trying to investigate what her brother was working on, put together clues, and also like at the same time trying to earn her place as a like trainee within this program, because like at the end of the summer, if she passes the tryouts, then like every year she will come back and continue training until like she graduates, and then she'll become like a full member of the bureau with like a job similar to what her brother had. Another really interesting thing too is that like all of the kids that are trying out with Amari's class, they all basically like get this kind of like infusion of a very small amount of magic. And what that magic does is it takes like an ability that you already have and transforms it to like a supernatural ability, so that everybody who is a part of this organization has something that they are supernaturally gifted in. And when Amari goes to get her dose, it actually comes out that Amari is a magician. And in this world, that is illegal, and everybody basically like hates magicians because of the Knight brothers, who were like two magicians who pretty much like did acts of like terrorism and like evil magic, and they were also immortal because of the evil magic. So like they did these for like hundreds and hundreds of years. So immediately Amari is facing a ton of prejudice. Like there are people who honestly just want to like wipe her memories and kick her out of the program altogether. And so thankfully like there are people who stand up for Amari and decide to let her prove herself. But what I really like about this is that there's a very clear connection to the way the magical world reacts to her being a magician, and that being parallel to Amari being Black and like the racism and prejudice that she has encountered as both a Black girl and a poor girl in like the regular world. I think if you're a young person of color, this book will very seen and validated, and will also provide them with like a sense of optimism and hope, which I mean again is like a bit idealized, but this is a middle grade. Like we should feel hopeful after reading a middle grade, you know what I mean? Like kids should have hope that they can change the world around them. I think that that is like really important. And I think that it's also important that the same book that makes POC children feel validated and seen and represented also teaches white children who will not experience racism the empathy and like how to recognize and see what is happening in the world around them. I personally think that it is important that white children learn what racism is and how it is wrong and how it is affecting the world around them at a young age, and they learn to build empathy. I think a book that can like teach and also build empathy while also making kids feel seen and recognized and represented and valid, I think it's just such a beautiful book, and it can do all of those things, and I think it's fantastic. And I think that if you have a young reader in your life and they haven't read this and they like fantasy, I absolutely think like this is a perfect time. Like go get this for Christmas for them. I think it's so great. I absolutely will be continuing on with the Amari series. I think it's so good. Book 2 is already out, and like book 3 is in the works. I don't know when it's coming out, but yeah, this is a 5-star read. It's really, really good. Overall, that means that Jess Owens gets a 4.6 for the quarterfinal round. She does defeat Brittany. She will be moving on to the semifinals. That kind of concludes this round of the Booktube Knockout. Again, I'm so sorry for how this vlog ended. Honestly, I'm sorry for the whole thing, but like, this is my life, so I don't think next week's video is going to be all that great either. If you for some reason want to stick around for that though, I personally would really appreciate that. Feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please be safe these holidays. Please just know, like, if you are struggling this holiday season, you do matter. Please seek help if you need it. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.